Hello, and welcome to the first ever Pondside Chat. My name is Steve Kuchin, and I am the CIO at Lilypad Network. And I'm really looking forward to geeking out today with this amazing special guest, our first guest ever on this series. Now, this series, we're still tinkering with the format a little bit, and we're looking for your feedback, like all good open source projects. We would love to hear back from you. If you've got somebody you would love to come on the show, or you want to come on yourself, we're just looking for folks to come and share their experience, maybe talk about an open source project you're involved with or that you just really, really like. My favorite one, if anyone is watching, my favorite one is the Open API spec generator project. So anyway, I'm not here to talk about that one today. Maybe we'll do that on next episode. But we're probably going to look at doing one of these maybe once every month or so, but depends how much interest there is. So please reach out to us. You can also join our Discord at lilypad.tech/Discord, growing community of folks who just like to contribute to open source projects, get involved building fun things, and just geeking out with one another, that's what it's all about. Anyway, got a really, really, really amazing guest today. The amazing DappaDan will be joining us, and we're really, really thrilled to have him on today's show, especially for the first one, because it actually was in response to a tweet thread we had a little while ago where I was like, hey, come and do a fireside chat thing. And Dan said yes, which was absolutely amazing. So for those that don't know, Dan is known for creatively clever and amusing and highly educational videos. Actually, I love the videos Dan puts together as well. Dan breaks down, really good at breaking down complex blockchain concepts into easy to understand nuggets. Whether discussing decentralized apps or highlighting any of the latest decentralized trends, DappaDan has a unique way of making Web3 not only accessible, but more fun for all. And after spending years and years in tech, that's what it's about. And also everyone just contributing and having fun along the way and building cool stuff, of course. Beyond content creation, Dan is known as a familiar face at countless hackathons, many, including our favorite, the ETH Political series, of course, and collaborating with some of the brightest minds in the industry to push the boundaries of tech and decentralized technologies, and again, just building out cool things. Contributions far extend beyond social media with a strong focus on exploring innovation in the Web3 space. So we're really excited to hear from Dan's journey, as a developer and in the Web3 space. Welcome, Dan. Woo, this is the applause part.
Woo! I mean, what an intro. Like, I need to save that recording, get the transcript, and anytime anyone wants to say, hey, write a bio about you, I'm just gonna boom, copy and paste that into the chat, because that thank you for that.
No, thank you for coming on, and looking forward to geeking out. Actually, I have a really tricky question to open with, and I know we sort of kicked out a few different questions, but this one I was keeping specially because I've seen some of your posts on your social and whatnot.
Okay,
but the tricky question is,
this is your first episode, and I'm very honored to be the first guest. I decided to really go into theme here. This is a Pondside Chat, so I got this hat, Lilypad
that is amazing.
Hat. I can't even get the camera. Is the camera okay? There we go. I gotta make sure this looks cute for the people.
That is amazing. We've actually looked at getting these as swag, so it's great that you've got one on. Oh,
all right,
wait, I don't have a hat handy, but if I did, I'd be like, tip of the hat to you.
Oh, okay. I mean, tip a hat to myself. That's what I'll do.
What an amazing
hat. All right,
hat.
hit me with your first question. This is a surprise question, so I don't know what it is.
totally surprised question. And actually, one thing I should mention, if anyone has any questions they want to ask, please drop it into the chat. All questions, comments, and emojis are always welcome, especially for everyone's. So like
Yeah.
that amazing
I
hat.
expect
Anyway.
this photo of me in this hat to be a meme soon enough. So if anyone has good Photoshops, go ahead and do that for me,
Oh,
please.
actually, we do have a meme contest on Galaxy at the
Oh
moment.
yeah,
So
yeah. There you go.
there we go. Yeah, the challenge is there. Anyway, my question is, what's your secret to the perfect matcha? There we go. It's totally a
Whew.
tricky one.
Jesus. So I mean, first, I love matcha. Just that's to be clear, just not a complete random question. And I mean, the secret ingredient to good matcha is patience. You can't buy it in the store.
Ah,
You gotta wait for it for a
yep.
long time, but it's patience. Because the whole point, if you're doing matcha right, it's the matcha ritual. You know, it's the pouring the hot water, it's warming the whisk, make sure the whisk is warm enough. You're pouring out the water, make sure your bowl is warm enough. You're setting the stage for the matcha. You're putting the matcha in. You're whisking the matcha with the hot water, not too hot, right? So you also need to make sure you get the right temperature of water. And then, yeah, you know, it's all of that combined. And if you rush it in any way, it's gone. It can ruin the matcha. If it's the water's too hot, you haven't whisked it enough, the whisk is cold. If you just took your whisk and you just started whisking. So yeah, that's it. Patience. Yeah, that's the best thing. And you might, you know, I would love to get a quick espresso, you know, Nespresso every day, but I like my matcha ritual. Gets me going.
Nice. Actually, I'm guilty of the patience thing too, because I'm just like, you know what, I just want to whisk it and just, go and do my thing, do, write code or whatever. So yeah, no, that is some good advice for great matchup. Just saying. So I mean, beyond that matcha question, but I mean, you've had a fascinating career path so far, transitioning from fintech, one of my, well, I mean, favorite spaces to be in, because like, yeah, the whole payments industry is just a whole topic into its own right.
Oh yeah.
But you transitioned from that to become a prominent voice in Web3, or at least sharing your experiences and making those amazing videos, which I always find so creative and amazing. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for that. But what sparked your interest in the space to begin with? Like, what got you into the Web3 sphere, but also what prompted you to start building some of the experiences you build?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I mean, I think if someone heard, oh, you've done fintech and then you go into this space, oh, you must be like one of those financial people or quants, or like, you know, you like the payment part of it all, which definitely wasn't my thing. I think before in the fintech, I was actually working and driving a lot of the consumer experiences. So mainly the front end, but how that actually connects into processing payments. So payment systems, like you said, it's a whole amazing world just to get your, you know, once you type in your card details into a checkout, there's a lot of different systems that plugged into that. So I was also responsible for building all of those type of integrations to different things. So payments was a quote unquote passion. But that wasn't my like huge segue into, oh, let's revolutionize the world of payments with, you know, crypto and things like that. More, I think it was just how the space, the actual tech behind it. So, I mean, I guess I entered here around the 2019, 2020. So it was the NFT craze. It was all of those things. But I was more interested into seeing how, like, especially even smart contracts, like how if you had these agreements on chain, how could you remove all of those other things that like block sort of payments in terms of like, yeah, this system here, this bank has this agreement, and you go to this processor. But you know, you could just have a smart contract to solve all of that. So it wasn't necessarily just the world of like finance, but the world of actually having consumer experiences on chain. And I found that to be kind of amazing that you can, you know, as a developer, you know, permissionless deploy a contract and see how it works, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, one of the things I love most about Web3, and the fact that it's all like it's open source, it's literally in the open, anyone can contribute to it. Like it's definitely an interesting space. And I think it's something that kind of surfaces a lot in your content too. Like as a technical writer and a content creator, like you take those really complex and I mean, let's face it. I've been writing code for years, and I mean, blockchain's hard.
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot of moving parts in
That should
there,
be the takeaway of
which
this chat. Blockchain hard.
blockchain. Actually, we should get some stickers there.
Yeah, there
I
you
mean,
go.
the how do you yeah, on that note though, how do you bridge the gap between complex technology and a broader audience? Like what approaches do you take to make Web3 concepts more accessible and engaging? I mean, the creative side aside, of course, but yeah, what sort of approach do you normally take when you're making out sort of content, educational content?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really about making the content relatable, and honest. So first is relatable. I remember when I was learning around smart contracts, like it was the classic analogy of like a vending machine, which was like it kind of works in your head, right? I mean, you probably everyone's probably used a vending machine. I don't know if they're. I haven't used a vending machine in like probably 10 years, but I know they're still out there, right? Or I get the concept. So taking some of those like complexities of smart contract is just like a vending machine, right? It has rules, you push some buttons and it's going to do the thing that you expect it to do at most times. Like I know sometimes the chips get stuck in the thing and then you have to like bang on it. And maybe that's even like a further analogy of smart contracts as well. But yeah, I find it really just finding something relatable in that regard, because I think anything that we talk about from a technical perspective that's super complex still has some analogy or example. And I think sometimes we get really comfortable about just talking about the tech and then we forget about the analogy, or we even sometimes go further and we take the analogy too far and then we're like, what were we talking about again? So those are like, it's like a balancing act. But then also I think just being really relatable, like you said, right? The quote, the takeaway, blockchain hard. Like whenever I present something or try to educate someone, like I will tell you where I had trouble with. Like this is not going to be a tutorial or demo or something where I'm just like, this worked perfectly. Look at, boom, bam. This is not like one of those cooking shows, right? You need to really show where you have problems, because a lot of this technology that we're building, especially on the infrastructure level, is brand new. Like I talk to teams all the time. And even in mid conversation, they'll say, this might change, or this might change, or this is already being implemented, changing somewhere else. So as a developer, when you're working with that, you need to be very aware that you're kind of working on, I guess, undry concrete. Is my analogy, right? It's like this cement that is like still wet. Yeah, wet cement. That's what we're working on. And
Yep.
so some things look like they're hard, like because it's like really flat, but you can step in it and it's still very wet. So yeah, being very honest about that, I think is a really good way to make content engaging.
Yeah, I love that. That authenticity approach just always resonates so strongly because like we're all devs, we're all building the same stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
being able to relate to everyone. I think what advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out in their Web3 journey or their development journey? Like what's some learnings that actually what's some things you wish you told yourself when you first started?
Yeah. Oh, this is like a good one. I love this. Like the young me. Where would I go? I
Yeah.
think it's interesting. I want to say like almost two contradictory things here. So, because in some regards, I think it's like kind of important to get some of the fundamentals down. And I think, especially when I started, that was like a big thing in terms of like people trying to educate others. It was like, oh, we're going to do this intro to blockchain. We're going to talk about consensus mechanisms. We're going to talk about what is a block and all of these sorts of things, which I think is kind of important. But lately, and I mean, this is kind of how I started. But I think lately now we've kind of not moved on from that, because obviously that's still the core technology for a lot of these things. But I think we can build things now. Like I think we can actually start building things that are fun, useful, or interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, if I were to start today, that's where I would go, right? I would go to the docs of, like, let's say Lilypad, and I would immediately just start on like having an application or some sort of use case in mind, instead of, oh, let me go to, like I used to, I mean, I still read white papers and all that, but before, I would go, oh, let me read the white paper of the Lilypad. I need to understand it from a fundamental core level before I even start doing anything. And I think now you just really need to start building things. So I think that's why hackathons are great. So I definitely say get involved with a hackathon, there's one every week, every 3 days. So you just like go to Twitter or something and just search Web3 hackathon or something, and you'll probably find one. But I think, yeah, that would be a good start. It's just start building something you want to see. And I try to make a lot of that content now really focus on building applications or something rather than exploring core concepts or high level. I think that's kind of something that we did before a couple years ago, but now we should just start building.
Nice. I love that. Yeah, my favorite part of a project's always getting it, because from that moment on, you've got no check debt. As soon as you've done that, like beyond that point, you're gonna have to probably refactor at some point in time.
Yeah, for sure.
Actually, on that note, like, what's you have done a lot of hackathons. I got a few questions around this one, but what's one of the most surprising or inspiring stories you've ever encountered from one of the hackathons that you have done? One of the many. Like, was it someone's a team building out something that then they went on and built a full company from, or like what's something inspirational you've seen, or something that's really stuck with you over the events you've done?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, so I have a show called Hackathon Heroes where I interview people that do that have success in hackathons, which I leave that as an open definition, because I don't think hackathons, like, I always tell people, like, you get developer points no matter what you go to a hackathon. Winning a bounty is just like the extra cake. But
yeah,
in these stories, I think almost everyone just building something is an inspiration in a very short period of time. But the things I guess that stuck out for me, especially, are the people who are not necessarily developers or technical, but still go and contribute to projects. So whether that's from a design perspective, like I had an interview with Anna. She's a designer and engineer, but she also leans more on design side as well. And I think just being able to contribute and being able to build with teams is ultimately, I think, what we should be aiming for hackathons, right? Is like not just, oh, I will sit here and write some code and then I'll build some ugly front end and hopefully the judges are impressed by that. Like, I think you should leave a hackathon with having some like extra energy of like, oh, I could either build the thing that continue building the thing that I have, which is great when I think a lot of protocols and teams do grants and stuff outside of those hackathons to keep people going, or you should be impressed by your skills so you can start building something else. And I think that's just inspiration where I see people, continue to build on it because they got a grant, or they just continue building on it because they want to see that thing at end of the world. And then also incorporating other skill sets in teams, right? Because I think that's going to be, really cool. Like I said, because we're at a level now where we just can build apps and consumers experiences and things like that. And having everyone involved is the most important.
On the topic of hackathons, I have a few questions about that. Love that answer too, by the way. That especially having non code savvy folks like get involved with those sort of events. I think that's amazing. Like it's what we're about. Because everyone contributing, even if you don't write code, just being able to even proof docs and be able to help with some of the support side of things, even like being able to test code or whatever else. I think that's fantastic, and just it gets everyone involved too.
Yeah, these people play more of a role than like fetching me coffee and whatever. Right? They can actually do a lot more.
Actually, on that note, that was actually my next question. Not the fetching your coffee part, but what's been one of your most memorable? I mean,
oat milk, please.
Noted. If ever we get to catch up in person, IRL, then totally, we'll get you over there.
Great.
What's I mean, these hackathon events, and I think I saw you do some tweets about this recently. You did a few of them like back to back, and well, you tend to eat pretty well at some of these things because they put a very good catering. So what's some of your more memorable catering or snack options at some of the hackathons?
Yeah, I think the best. I was definitely spoiled. I think was the Istanbul ETH Global event, because one, Turkish food is just hands down top 5, top 3, top. I don't know. I don't want to get canceled here, but it's one of the best foods out there in the world, right? It's just like the Mediterranean food, and so obviously you have that. So that's just already a good start. And then there was just like constant snacks throughout the night, but like readily available, like, the Turkish treats, the Turkish delights and stuff like that. And it was just out there. And some hackathons, right, they have like, pre-designated times, like, oh, it's going to be snack time at 3 a.m. So make sure to go and get your snack before run out. But this Ethan Istanbul just basically had it out the entire time. And I think that's really important because like this from general energy like need, but like, yeah, you want to like, oh, stop, take a break, take a little Turkish delight, take a little Turkish coffee, and sit, maybe chat with some people, and then go back to coding. Like that's just beautiful. So I think anyone is playing a hackathon, like have food available. I know it's kind of a big ask, but have it available all the time. Something, whether it's just like a bars and bananas, that's a good start. But especially if you're in Turkey, get the Turkish food.
Oh, nice. Actually, on that note, and you sort of touched on it there too, like you go away, do some stuff, then come back, sit down, keep coding. Do you often go into the hackathon with some ideas, of what you want to build out or what you're looking for, maybe to join a team? Like, do you go in with some sort of idea on what you want to build out or get from the time? And then follow-up question to that. I think you touched on it because you said you were getting food at 3 a.m. So how's your sleep schedule look like when you're doing these things?
Yeah. So I guess the first question in terms of idea. So the most successful hackathons, again, success defining as winning bounties, are the ones where I have an idea already in mind. I think it's, but like not too crazy, right? So like a lot of these hackathons, especially when they follow up from a conference, I'll be like kind of feasting just to keep on the eating, right? Like feasting on the idea. So whether like I mean I get a lot of my hackathon ideas from either people on Twitter that post designs and stuff like that. Like OX Designer is a really big account to follow if you want to get some hackathon ideas, or through like research. So I'm a big fan of like going through like blockchain research, crypto research, and normally they have a lot of people that from universities that will suggest things. Oh, here's like an application of it. And they don't actually build those projects. So, from the planning perspective, I'm normally like reading those papers during that week, or just kind of, and also like kind of slowly talking about the idea to people to see if it's interesting. So like, people will ask, oh, are you hacking this weekend too? Like during the whole week. So like, yeah, I got this idea, like, and get their feelings of it. So that's probably the biggest extent. Like when I do those, that's probably the most successful I've been. I don't necessarily, and then I also try to make sure I'm familiar with the tool. So like, go through a quick start or a hello world. There's some people that like, they only pick the tools that they've used before, and they think it's kind of crazy if you don't do that. But for me, that's kind of the point of the hackathon too, is like get some exposure to new tools. So I don't have any like, normally I don't have any prior experience deploying anything with those tools until the hackathon itself. So to that point, right, sleep schedule. The last hackathon I did was East Brussels, and I got plenty of sleep. I got lots of sleep in comparison to like other events, and that was also because I had a plan, I executed on that plan, and literally the second night I was done basically with the core idea, and I was only just getting close to oh, let me build a new feature here, new feature there, new feature there, and I was like, okay, maybe I should just go to sleep instead. So it varies. I like to hack alone most hackathons because I'm just kind of crazy like that. I like to do the Iron Man style versus like marathon pass the baton style. It's up. So I end up not getting as much sleep as I probably should have if I had a team. But yeah, I think the general advice or the strategy I've seen a lot of people taking now is that the first day you sleep more. Given if it's a 3-day or 2-day-ish hackathon, and then the second day you go full in. Personally, like me, I do the opposite. I go full in the first day because I like to have a good foundation, get me some momentum. Oh, this is gonna happen, and then the second day I'm just like snapping, ready to go. Like I said, building some new features or some of the things there. But yeah, you definitely want to spread it out, that you get some sleep at least one of those days. It's the best answer.
That makes sense. This is like the Zen, the tree falls in a forest scenario, because I mean, if a developer scope creeps their own project, then is it scope creep?
Oh wow, I don't know. I think it's just self mutilation or something. I don't know, like just self pain.
What's I mean to that end, and it sounds like you're always up for a challenge, but it's something you've used before, but maybe not used in a tool that you've used in a different way. But what excites you the most about some of the emerging Web3 trends that you're seeing now? Because obviously with the reach you've currently got, you must see a whole lot of like really new ideas sort of popping up, and you're like seeing something going, ooh, that's fun. What's some of the things that are emerging now that's really starting to grab your attention? Like, what are you kind of looking through to play with at the moment in your hackathon toolbox?
Yeah, I mean, non-biased here, of course, but I would say the AI stuff is definitely of interest. The decentralized AI, so of course, Lilypad being one of those networks out there, largely because through history, like I think open source AI or just open source in general tends to always win technology wise. So with that as a truth,
Mm.
then open source AI will win in burst close towards their proprietary models, right? I think that's just like a given throughout history. So then in that light, having a network that serves these models or being able to allow developer access to these models in a faster or cheaper or more efficient way is a net benefit for for developers, for products, tools, and anything like that. So for me, I think what's exciting about these tools and networks out there as well is that, I mean, obviously there's two elements, right? Participating in the network and then using the network. um, I'm trying to learn both, like how to participate as well, because as a developer, right, it's kind of, oh yeah, hey, great, I can use all these models and stuff like that, but obviously the network runs, or the benefit of the network is because people contribute. So I want to do more contribution to networks, whether that is GPU, got one here somewhere around here in the room, or
We
even
should chat.
yeah, docs, content, anything like that, just to get people knowledgeable about that element. And then obviously on the app side, there's so many things, so many people already building with generative AI and these large language models and stuff like that. But how could I bring that not only to users, consumer experiences, but even on like the crypto Web3. Like I think these things, even though at times it feels like we're like, oh, we need to bring them together because we're both kind of trending, and then that's where we want. But there is actually quite a lot of meat on the bone, if you will, for use cases and things like that. Like my last hack that I did was using a large language model to do searching on blockchain data, and that was really cool, right? So it's both, okay, natural language searching, because instead of going through like a blockchain explorer and finding out what's going on, like no one wants to do that. Like consumers don't want to do that, users don't want to do that. So using the data that we have, all the blockchain data and a large language model, and then, oh, hey, great, it's also a decentralized model, so I don't have to worry about any of that. Perfect. This is like a great match. So I think this entire space, obviously there's a lot of funding, a lot of attention, but I think also making sure that you keep these protocols like truth, start building on it and say, oh, this doesn't work, or it's not a better alternative, and like finding ways to do it, or why they are a better alternative, is like really important too.
I love that. And yeah, well, you touched on about three questions I was going to ask, which is fun.
Oh,
But
great.
yeah, I mean,
Knocking them
that's the
out.
ethos
Boom, boom,
of,
boom, boom, boom.
I mean, that's at the ethos of everything we're doing is just to decentralize and democratize access to those GPUs. And yeah, if you have one, actually, if anyone has one that they want to share, please check out the docs, which you have already. I should ask for your feedback. The actually, what do you think about our like? What is you probably poked around, or you've looked at our docs at least. We'd love
Of
to have
course.
you in the Discord, team.lilypad/Discord if you want to join. The what's and I mean we've got a growing community in there already of people contributing to the code base, and then even to just helping the success of everyone else involved in the project, which is great. Because I mean, no, that's the core of an amazing community is just everyone contributing. Anyway, what stands out beyond that is what some ways do you think Lilypad's emphasis on community and open source collaboration can encourage more contributions to, well, the not only the Lilypad project, but the Web3 ecosystem as a whole? Like, what's some, maybe it's more, actually, I don't know. Yeah, what's your thoughts on that? I don't know where I was going with that. But yeah, what's your thoughts on some ways that we can make it more inclusive, like make sort of help more people get involved and make it more accessible?
Yeah. Well, first on the doc side of things, I think the one thing that really stood out to me is two things. Or the one thing is two things. But the first thing, at least, is that like when I first heard about Lilypad, I was a little bit not concerned, but I was like, okay, this is like a concept. Like this is not something I'm actually going to be able to use. Like, it's going to be something that like we're gonna get there one day, but not yet. And what stuck out with me, there was like an actual hello world in there, which was huge. Which I know it sounds like bare minimum, you should have a hello world, but for something new to have a hello world, meaning I can use it, I think that was really, really great to see, which should be for everyone, but that's sadly not the case. Also, there's some use cases around that, which I think was really great. So I think definitely leaning into that. From accessibility point, I mean, I'm biased here, but video is I think probably the biggest thing for people. So I mean, this is I guess a video as well, but like really getting and showing builders what they're doing now. I think for a lot of protocols, this is just a general advice. Like if you have people in the community already building on your thing, you should be telling their story. You should be doing demos of what they're showing. Like it's crazy because like there's a whole repository of developers demoing things that are probably building on your protocol, and it's called ETH Global Showcases. And then like I had never seen anyone share or like cut those up or make them beautiful in any other way other than like once the hackathon is done, like when the hackathon is going on. And there's some people, you do the retweet and say that hey, I submitted and here's my video. But like, okay, literally have somebody build something and there's a demo and you could probably just throw that in your docs, just basic, or you could, talk to that dev and, oh, hey, can we do like a little interview or like explore how you did this? What were the troubles? Like, it's just all there for people to pick up. And that's, I think, from accessibility standpoint, even to the first question that you asked, it's like, it's great if I had an intimate chat with them and they told me like, oh, here's all the problems that I had. I put it on a recording, right? So everyone can kind of see us as well that we're like authentic. Like we don't need to just make highly polished videos of the DevRel doing something and then no issues here, no problems. But we actually had a chat and took some feedback in. So I think that's just an opportunity for Lilypad and just for everyone in general, is just to engage the people who are building and build content around that. Video seems to be the best one for accessibility. People like to watch videos, and keeping them engaging and entertaining is a skill itself. It's not easy, but that's probably something to focus on.
Funny you should mention that actually. And ETH Global is I was at the ETH Global Sydney Hackathon. We were sponsored earlier in the year, and we had some people actually building some stuff we had theorized we could do with Lilypad, but they actually went and did it. They basically built
nice.
Lilypad into their CI/CD, into their pipeline, and so they were automatically building like new levels and new game assets as like part of the thing.
I'd love to see a video on that. Really... Where's the video?
Oh, it's actually on the ETH Global page, the showcase page. There's a few of them already, and yeah, there's like full write-ups and stuff, and they're still like very active members of the community, which is
nice.
Which is great. And yeah, it was just phenomenal to see people finding the same useful benefits of just being able to run stuff really quickly, not needing to dig through, I'm going to say, a cloud provider, I won't mention any, 64 regions trying to find a GPU instance. They were just able to like just run it, and it was there.
Nice.
So no, amazing advice. I love that too. What was some of the other questions? Actually, I have some fundamental ones that I always love asking. Is what was your first computer?
Yeah, so I am not the type of, I know there's tons of people out there that are like, oh yeah, I remember it's the blah, 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 like all the specs and all of that. I don't remember any of the specs of my first computer. it was a computer that was brought into my home. I loved it.
Yeah,
It was very old, but very, very good fundamentals on learning that. I'll tell you what my first favorite computer was, or first two favorite computers was. Um,
that's good.
One was, this is going to show age, but Gateway two. There was a Gateway 2000 computer. It's called Gateway 2000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know, I can't now remember on the top of my head why I loved it so much, but I didn't have it. Like one of my friends had it, but I was always like come to his house and like, oh, you got the Gateway 2000. I was like this big white tower, like it's disgusting looking now, but that one, and then of course like the original like iMacs, like
Oh yeah.
that was in my
With
school. This was like when Apple went hard on, we're gonna win students over, and we're gonna put iMacs in every school, and they sponsored my school, and like, oh yeah, they're beautiful machines, these blue and green colors and all that. And that's when I realized that like, technology could be much more than just the white tower terminal, but like something that people can use and enjoy to use. So yeah, those are probably my two early computer memories, at least.
That's nice. Wait, I have to ask. The tower, did it have one of those turbo buttons to like make it go faster?
I think that's what it was. I think now that you say that, I think that's why I was like, oh, I gotta get one of those things, but I never got one. Maybe I should just go on eBay and see if they fulfill my childhood
So,
dreams.
I actually have thought about doing this, and I know people. I get some friends, have been doing that for years, and they have like entire basements just full of this stuff. And I thought my thing always is if I buy one, like it's not going to stop at one. I'm going to
Yeah,
end up needing a whole house just to put all that stuff in.
yeah. I've seen some people
The
have like the retro Max as like decoration. I'm not sure. I mean, I like that idea, but I don't know. We'll see.
Then you've got to like, yeah, you got to look after them and dust them and like keep them all. Yeah, before
Yeah,
you know it, one
exactly.
will turn it.
Lot of
They're
upkeep.
like when you, yeah, and like when you feed gremlins after midnight, one will turn into many.
Yeah, yeah. I just have a bunch of old computers around my feet. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Well, adding on to that, what was your first programming language you started tinkering with on some of your early computers that you were messing around with? Like, what was it like Basic or right? That wouldn't have been Basic. What would that mean?
Yeah, well, so
C
I
plus
actually
plus.
started learning on Visual Basic was my first programming language.
Um, nice.
Learned it in
Well,
school. As you
yeah,
do, you take the early learning computer science course because why not? So yeah, it was Visual Basic, and then that one, there was like computer science like one, like the first level, and then it transitioned to Java in the computer science 2 class. So that was like, I mean, Visual Basic it's a serious language, but then going to Java was like, like,
whole other
but
world.
yeah. I mean, and people still doing Java now, so I was doing some serious coding at a young age, which was good exposure. Got a lot of the concepts down. I think at that young, like, this was like very like intermediate. This was like, I don't know, 10, 12, something like this. Um, it was good to like put in computer code and then see stuff come out. Like, obviously then we moved it to like the HTML. This was like, people still doing Notepad and stuff for like HTML and JavaScript and all of that. But
Yeah.
even building out those type of applications like in Java and then actually seeing some sort of UI too was really nice to keep going and stay motivated. Which I think sometimes if we go back to like the topic of blockchain, like we don't get those experiences all the time, right? You could build something that's just a terminal app or on chain somewhere, but yeah, I think for people starting out, they need to see what they build. So yeah, it was a good experience.
So I mean, on that, like, what does true decentralization mean to you? And I think you might have touched on it in a couple of things already, but like, how do you see it shaping the future of the internet, for example, like the wider internet? Obviously, we've got that shift that's been undergoing for a few years now, particularly as Web3, the Web3 cement matures.
Yeah, the wet cement.
As you yeah, the wet cement. Like,
Watch
how do
out.
you see it revolutionizing? Well, I'm going to say revolutionizing because I've also spent some years around Web2, and it needs revolutionizing.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what? how do you see it reshaping the internet and revolutionizing it?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, what I kind of do now, labeling of like what we are doing in this space is about building a better internet. Like, I mean, I think people can kind of agree. Like, I mean, I grew up on the internet, and the internet fundamentally is similar, is the same since the start, but also has lost some of its good parts. So, like, you know, in terms of content ownership, which is kind of near and dear to my heart as well, right? We have all given up to the platforms, and being able, you know, we don't have personal sites anymore. We don't. We have an identities that are fragmented across different networks and servers and all of that, which is also kind of a annoying thing for a user at the least, and also harmful for a user at the worst. So I think, you know, about building a better internet, right? It is about both active participation. You know, the early days of the internet was about like I went on this tangent one day, and I was like, I'm gonna like learn about, I think it was for an article actually. I learned about the history of like SMTP and mail protocols, and it was like very much like people having their own home mail servers, and they were just, and because they
Yeah,
just all literally passed around to different servers until it got to your inbox. uh, and you know, obviously there's probably more efficient, like we can bring more efficiencies to that structure, but I think that was kind of the core value of the foundational beliefs of the internet. So it's kind of like building a better internet on those beliefs, whether it's me having a GPU in my home and, you know, and then serving it up for other people to have access, and if there's incentives around that too, that's great as well, which I think maybe the original internet, the original like foundations didn't build that in, right? Because they didn't have a native currency to operate in. uh, so I think that's a big part. It's like getting active participation, and then also active ownership of whether that's data, content. You know, there's a lot of big push around like, oh yeah, owning your own data, getting incentivized, or you know, also having ways to get money for, or whatever type of thing, in terms of you're using your data to train AI models, which is a big one that people are having a push for. So yeah, I think it's just about participation and ownership, and being able to do that permissionless. So like I said, that's for me decentralization, not necessarily needing to have to ask anyone, or you know, go through any sort of gates to do so.
I love that you mentioned email because I have such a rant about that because I used to run my own mail server as
Oh
well
wow, you
using
were one of them. Okay, nice.
Postfix and Dovecot, and it just got too hard because well you need the blessing from one of the big email people, companies to be able to do that without being marked as spam, which they do for anything that isn't them. So anyway, whole
Yeah,
other rant.
it's crazy. Email from, it's like
Decentralized.
super centralized now. It's like two or
Oh,
three providers or something is like 99% of the email traffic. So it's like, yeah, I mean, email, we rely on that even though we don't like it, right? It's still a highly important asset. And if any of those things went down, that it'd be over.
yeah, yeah, and I think well we're seeing that as a new revolution. Well, actually, what's your thoughts on that at the moment with the obviously you're also seeing quite the emergence of use of AI. I mean it's in everything these days. Even AI has AI in it now. What's where do you see that following the same pattern that you've seen the likes of like email and you know that sort start to take that sort of approach with the emergence of AI at the moment? I think you touched on it a few times with some of the other answers already, but yeah, what's your thoughts on that one?
Do you mean in terms of like the network, or how, what do you mean by that?
Sorry, as in accessibility to the models and sort of the
Oh
shaping
yeah.
of the some of the more common models like there. Do you see that same? I don't want to say stranglehold, but I feel it's an apt word.
Yeah, no, no,
Do you
no,
see
it
the
makes sense.
same constraints coming into place with the emergence of AI models?
Yeah, I think so. There's like two big ideas that have kind of shaped my ideas around this, I guess, or beliefs around it. One statement I think Sam Altman had made was like this idea of like a right to compute, like that's going to be like almost a human right in the future, right? To be able to have X amount of computer power to do whatever you would like to do, whatever you need to do, and obviously making sure that that is accessible to everyone, is obviously and guaranteed is what a right should be. So I think that plays a really big part on it. Another article that I recently read, and maybe I'll send you the link. It was actually talking about how coding has become pay to play. And if you think about it, so like Cursor right now has gotten a lot of big hype around it, but you need to. I mean, yeah, you get a free tier, and then you can, if you use all that, then you can upgrade, and there's GitHub Copilot as well, and all these AI tools. But they all say all have some sort of your paywall behind using them. And like I said, when I started coding, right, it was just download this IDE, write the code, run the code. But as more and more coding happens through using models, and it's like companies that are getting paid for that, the accessibility as well as the usage, then yeah, coding becomes pay to play, which is a really sad thing to do, right? If like I have to go buy the subscription to code efficiently, if you define efficiently using a large language model, yeah, that's a huge loss to the world of coding and development work. So making that more accessible and making it cheaper and in any type of way, I think is really important. Because we might lose that ability for anyone to just start building things. I mean, of course, you can still write code, right? You're never going to lose that. I hope not. But there's going to be so much pressure, I think, for people to work with these large language models to do coding, or just the self pressure of like, I need to get it out, the expectation, speed, things like that. And yeah, if it's becomes pay to play, that would be a really sad world to live in.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And for anyone that's watching that is contemplating coding, please check out Dan's amazing videos on getting started, and then also that
Yeah,
hackathon
thank you.
series, just to because yeah, I think that's super important, especially because like it's all based on open source. It's all
Yeah.
there, everyone, and you've got these amazing communities wanting to help, and amazing people like yourself wanting to help people learn how to do this stuff with or without the AI. Actually, one question I do have, and I've started to notice more. What's your thoughts around the user experience around some of the more closed source AI models? Like, it almost seems like they're removing the user from the picture in regards that like they're sometimes will second guess the end user's experience because they think they know better, and they don't take the time to learn, or they aren't trained to take the time to learn the user's approach to understand how they're doing things, to even guide them into a slightly different way. So what's your thoughts on what I'm going to dub AI UX? Oh, that's a lot of letters.
Yeah. But I mean, you should have at least 4 more of those, and that'd be cool. AI, UX, DX, LX, LLX. Yeah, I don't know.
We'll work on that one.
Yeah, that is true, right? I think there is a lot of guidance when you're building a large language model or a Gen AI application, and then the large language model. We call them copilots and things like that, but you almost need to anticipate what the user wants, and then that's also making a judgment call on what the user wants. I mean, I think there was the iPhone 16 came out yesterday, and there was all the Apple Intelligence and adding more context to things. I thought it was interesting, right? On a complete tangent, but they have this Apple Vision, right? And you could take a photo of like a restaurant, and then it's going to show you all the reviews. But like, they never said like, oh, I don't want those reviews. Like, I want something else. Like, I didn't actually get it. Like, it was a really cool feature to show, or like, you show the dog, you take a photo of the dog, and then the AI will tell you what type of dog it is. But again, the user never said, I want to know what kind of dog this is. It was just taking a photo, and then the large language model just tries to, through prompt engineering, I guess, say what you might want. So I think that's like still a growing space. I think as users more and more demand, like I think now it's kind of still, oh wow, I can do this. But then soon enough it'll be like, but I don't want to do this. How do I get out of it? Like, how do I, like the Vim joke, right? How do I exit Vim? Like, how do I exit the Gen AI experience? um,
Oh, now I have to ask the question. Wait, Vim or Nano?
Nano. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have a life.
Oh, I actually like Vim. This is
Oh,
fun.
and the
This is
interview here. One day, maybe one day I'll sit down and learn them, but that
to
hasn't
be
happened
fair,
in 2 years.
Vim has a lot of really unusual commands, so it's fine. I get it.
I
I'm
see
just used to
devs when
doing
they
it.
do streams and stuff and use them like, oh god, I gotta get on that. But then I just think, yeah, it's one of those things that you like. You see somebody like, oh, it's kind of it's like a showing thing, especially when you see someone streaming or coding it. But then when you get down to it, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, is it really helping me as much as I thought it was gonna be? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe one day
Look,
I'll come watch this
actually,
back. Yeah, go ahead.
actually, on that note, what is some of your favorite coding tools? Like, what is your go-to IDE, code editor, notepad editor, code editor?
Yeah, I mean, use VS Code primarily. I have installed Cursor. I used it very early on and wasn't a big fan, largely because the hotkeys that I had mapped in my VS Code conflicted with some of the hotkeys in Cursor, and so that was like, oh god, I don't want to like redo all this stuff. But I have it back installed, and I'm going to try to use it at least for a month or so again, because I understand that this, there's a lot of excitement around it. So there's got to be something behind that excitement. I've been also watching. This is like kind of, I guess it's a geeking out conversation, but I have watched a lot of developers use Cursor. Like there's a whole series of people that is like 2 hours long. But I whenever I use a new tool, I want to become like super efficient with that tool from the start, before I throw it away or judge on it. And so watching others do that, even when I do like videos, like I watch people do video editing and like, oh, what are they doing? How are they doing that? Learn the hotkeys and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty boring in that, but VS Code right now is the main go-to. I do also, maybe this is like a slight, but I actually love using GitHub Desktop versus terminal. I think that's like, so
Nice.
good shout out to GitHub Desktop. So sometimes I think it's just so much easier, than like, yeah, merge it, like, working with conflicts and stuff like that. So if you use GitHub Desktop, you should have no shame, because I probably use it.
It's so much easier to see the workflow, so I totally agree. And I've messed up my fair share of like GitHub repos before
Yeah,
to like
exactly.
rebase it and try a new branch. So yeah, I totally get it. And no
Yeah, I mean, I
judgment
think
zone ever.
learning Git, like when people teach Git, they always draw something. So I think actually Git is a visual experience, um, rather than a text-based experience. So having a GitHub or even like a Git lens makes more sense to me naturally than, yeah, just operating in a terminal. I know terminal's more efficient, it looks cool, whatnot. But yeah, I think Git is a visual thing, so using a visual tool makes sense to me.
Um, just a few more questions, and we're almost out of time. If anyone does have any questions, incidentally, please drop them into the chat, and we'll see if we can get some before we wrap up in soon. But do you have a favorite developer movie? Like anything that's kind of the history of, or like the
Yeah,
emergence of a thing, like what? Yeah.
this is the easiest answer. So, this is not like, I mean, I'm gonna give this out, and then people are gonna try to find this movie, but it's not easy to find. But I grew up in the U.S., and there's this channel at the time called TNT, and they used to do like original, like made for TV type movies, and this movie was one of those things. So this is why it's kind of hard to find. But it's called Pirates of Silicon Valley. I don't know. Have you seen that?
Oh, oh, have I? That is my go-to. Yeah. Oh, that no,
Oh
that
wow. Okay, we're
IBM
back up now.
scene is that IBM scene is legendary. Like that whole
Yeah.
like we didn't have anything. I watched that. I worked at IBM.
Okay. So I think it's like, I don't know. So the movie, I think it's a really well made movie. Obviously, there's like newer movies out there that are about, especially Steve Jobs and Apple. But I don't know if it just caught me
Yeah.
at the right time in my life or whatnot. But I think it was the first movie that that tried to show like the human side of technology in a very real sense. And maybe even going back to the first question, right, about authenticity. because they showed, Steve
Yeah.
Jobs getting that. They showed Bill Gates. I think they even have a scene when he got drunk and ran into the car, right? So like these people,
Yep.
for better or worse, were my idols growing up, right? In early computing, like these two people who were, seemingly perfect, but then you had this film come out that was still, again, I don't know how big the budget was, but it was still really well done. And then they showed all of these things. They
Yeah.
showed, I think even they touched about Steve Jobs and his kid a little bit too, right? Like that he didn't claim his kid.
Yeah.
And I think if I were like put a little social twist to this, we don't. I mean, maybe the Social Network showed a little bit of like the Zuckerberg faults as well, but I think still ended up in the day like he was the hero and all that. But especially now, I think the tech outlash is like that because we have so many of these people idol, like Elon Musk, for example, and we don't get the true sense of them. Like we just get that, like, not picture perfect, because there certainly aren't perfect, but like, yeah, either you absolutely hate him because you think everything he does is terrible, or you absolutely love that person because you think everything they do is great. But there's like a lot of nuance to their personalities, and we kind of lost that. And maybe that's also why I like the film, because they showed a lot of nuance to these two people who were billionaires, pioneers of the industry, and even very early on, right? It wasn't like now if you came out with that movie, you're probably like, oh yeah, of course Steve Jobs had faults, but they did it when like Steve Jobs was, the top, and now
Yeah.
and they kind of took him to the test. I think there was like some lawsuits even around that film because of how honest it was. But yeah, something like that. So that's my all-time tech movie, Pirates of Silicon Valley.
Oh, when you said TNT, I was like, oh, I think he's gonna say it,
Yeah,
and then he
okay,
did. So
perfect.
yeah. It should, that movie, like literally there's this one scene where Steve Ballmer says this should be taught in all the schools, and like, yeah, this movie, like if you're in tech and you haven't seen Pirates of Silicon Valley, please go find it. I don't know where
Yeah,
it is,
find
but
it. I don't know.
the
I
internet,
looked on YouTube at one
you will
time, and
find
I
it.
only found clips, but everything's on the internet now, so I'm sure you can find it somehow.
It's around. Totally listening. I think that's all we had time for. I had one last question, which is, who do you think we should interview next on Pondside Chats?
Oof. I almost had a feeling you would ask this, and I was like thinking about it. I think you should
No
interview.
pressure, no pressure.
Yeah, yeah. I think you should interview Edda. Edda tweets on Twitter. I think she does a really great job. She's part of the Builder Guild. I think she does a really great job of almost like what I try to do, but I think she does it way better than I. Is like really supporting this whole industry in terms of like, yeah, giving feedback, giving educational material, and like being very honest and authentic around this whole space, and also being like, she also does yoga, so maybe that's a little bit biased on this whole Zen move, but I think she's a great person to have on the show because yeah, talking about open source, talking about community, yeah, there's probably almost no one better.
Amazing, thank you. Any final words in the last minute or so? Any shout outs? Any final thoughts?
No, I mean, shout out to Lilypad, shout out to you. Thank you for having me as first guest. I'm, like you said, I'm honored. I kept this hat on the whole time,
Thank you.
so hopefully someone will capture a screen grab of that. So I gave him plenty of time to do so. But this is great. Yeah, man, I'm super impressed by all of the community work Lilypad has done, and like I said, as a content creator myself, I think I'll like to get people really energized is about making great content. So hopefully this falls under that, and hopefully people get something out of it.
Amazing, thank you. For those that aren't yet following DappaDan, please follow him on any and all of the socials on Twitter, YouTube. I think that's all the places. Wait, are you on any other places you wanted to mention?
I'm on Warpcast too, but not too actively. But yeah, you can follow me there too. Give me a follow.
Also, if you are on Warpcast, please play Yoink. Because yeah, anyway, I'm really into Yoink lately. I'm there. Anyway.
Nice.
It's just it's like capture the flag game. Got some ideas.
Okay. I have to check it out. I didn't know there was games on it.
Just yeah. Oh, there's all these like role playing games and stuff too. It's really cool. Anyway,
nice.
I'll send you some links.
Cool. All right. Thanks a lot.
Anyway,
bye,
thank
everyone.
you. Thank you for joining us. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining. And we'll see you at the next one. Stay tuned. Hello. If you're watching this, then please also join us every week for the Lilypad AMA. Check out our socials to find out links and see more. But essentially, you can also see the same format in a weekly show. So drop in either in the APAC region, which is next week, or the North American region, which is actually this week. So anyway, check out the Lilypad YouTube to find out more, or check out our socials, all the links you'll need. And thanks again for joining.